the efforts are made to come up with additional guidance. So in the case of risk assessment and risk management, the efforts started right from COPMOP 2 in Montreal in 2004, where it was this thought that we should consider the nature of scope of existing approaches and maybe try to come up with a detailed guidance, further guidance on this. And this continued for almost 12 years, following which, and why does it take so much of time, is because the different parties have different opinions, and there's a long process of bringing in what you say the concurrence from the parties, agreement among the parties. And in 2016, in between, there are ad hoc technical expert groups which are set up, which work on these issues. And finally, we came up with what is the voluntary guidance, which can be considered by the party among other available guidance. Now, this guidance, I won't go into much of the details. It had a section on risk assessment of living modified mosquitoes. But the most important part is that the guidance was based on problem formulation approach, which is like a accepted methodology for risk assessment. And problem formulation helps you identify need to be addressed case by case, gather all the relevant information already available, and then identify the potential hazards, and then do the risk characterization, which will help you to take your decision. Now, even after this guidance, voluntary guidance have been adopted, under the protocol, there is a process where which more topics or specific issues can be provided for, can be put forth by the parties as the priorities, and they can go back to the protocol and say we need this kind of a guidance. So, but then everything cannot be done. So there is a certain criteria which was agreed in the protocol that anything that you are proposing should fall within the scope and objective of the protocol. It should pose, it should be different from whether the existing guidance cannot be applied, So we need to see if there is a challenge to the existing risk assessment framework, and then the challenges also need to be very clearly described. So parties keep on providing different topics, but then there's a discussion. Some may be agreed, some may not be. In 2018, living modified organisms containing engineered gene drives were identified as a topic that require further guidance. And then, like the way I showed that different COPs, similarly the work started on the development of voluntary guidance on engineered gene drives. In 2018, at Sharm el Sheikh, the COPMOP 9, the discussion was initiated to develop the guidance on gene drives. Then there are studies commissioned by Secretariat, there are online forums, opportunity is given to every stakeholder to present their views. So in 2020 there was an ACTAC, and this ACTAC, finally in 2022 the parties took a decision that we will develop an additional voluntary guidance material. The ICGEB was asked to prepare a detailed outline. ACTAC was set up, 2 meetings were held, and finally they prepared a document which has been, accepted in the COPMOP 11 at Cali, Colombia, in 2024, October 2024. This guidance was accepted as endorsed the guidance on EGD, engineered gene drives, and it is referred as a voluntary guidance on engineered gene drives. So this is how the decision reads from the COP, which says that welcome the outcomes of RARM ACTAC, endorses the guidance, and then the last one calls for broad international cooperation, knowledge sharing, capacity building, and resource mobilization to support the application of this guideline. Very quickly, because there's very little time, I'll just walk you through how this document provides us guidance to do the risk assessment of the engineered gene drives, and provides a very useful resource for doing that by the countries. So we have the initial sections are basically talking about how the objectives and the scope, how the decisions were taken. Section 2 provides for precautionary approach and the context setting basically. It introduces the engineered gene drives. Section 3 talks of opportunities and the risk concerns which are there. And then comes the key important issue, which is the section 4, and that is the one which outlines the general risk assessment considerations. It emphasizes on the problem formulation approach and also provides guidance on how to do that. The testing the risk hypothesis, including issues like sources and quality of information, modeling, comparators, tiered based testing, limits of concern, weight of evidence and uncertainties. All these have been very nicely dealt with in the document. Section 5 and 6, 5 provides for the risk management strategies, how they should be taken up. Section 6 on monitoring, and then section 7 provides for other issues which are related in addition to the scientific risk assessment, things like socio-economic, cultural, ethical considerations, the IPLCs taking the involvement of communities, public awareness, comparison of the novel and alternative strategies, transboundary movement, and then of course references, and a lot of annexures are also there which provide for various considerations that are important for risk assessment and decision making. Now there is a, when the decision was taken to prepare this document, it was said that because there is advancements in engineered gene drives with mosquitoes, that should be included in the document. So that the document has the mosquito specific issues have been presented in the boxes within the all above sections. Characterization of the LMOs and postulated adverse effects all have been given in a detailed within the document, and so it provides a very good guidance now to move forward with the risk assessments. In fact, this is a diagram which is from, this figure is from the document itself, where the problem formulation, the Annex 3, has been compared to how this document will apply the Annex 3 and will comply with that. So each section, you can see each section of the Annex 3, how it is being dealt with, has also been given. The most important thing which has been stressed is that even in the problem formulation approach, we had detailed discussion of course in the pre-workshop, but it is very important that we need to define the scope and boundaries of environmental risk assessments, and we should have a more practical, the practical questions which need answers. It cannot be very many hypothetical which will not find solutions. So it's like giving what we say the operational questions, and the assessment endpoints are very important. Only then this can be very effectively used as a decision supporting tool. And to support that, examples of protection goals, assessment endpoints and measurement endpoints have also been provided in the document to give a given indication to the countries. Then another very important strategy for risk assessment is what we say pathway to harm, where we actually list down the steps, sequence of events that would lead to harm. So those examples have also been given as a very useful guidance in the exam for mosquitoes actually. And then the other plausible pathways, things like what could be the potential adverse effects, those have also been given. The lists have been provided to prompt the regulators to think about them and deal with it. So as I said, mosquito specific issues are in boxes, and they are both kind of issues like self-limiting and self-sustaining. There are further details of how the potential for this to spread and persistence, what would be the intended outcomes, transient, persistent, quite a detailed document which has been agreed at Cali. So Cali has been, the meeting at Cali was very useful in this point, that the voluntary guidance was accepted by the parties, and now we have to, what we say, make efforts to see that how these guidance can be used effectively. Maybe some more capacity building is also required, or using the discussions on this, on how to use it on the specific cases. So Kelly has provided this has been one of the key outcomes of the COPMOP 11, and we are very happy that there is a kind of a though it's a voluntary guidance document, but then there has been a very much support to the document, and this provides a good starting point for initiating the risk assessments. Thank you so much.